and welcome back to another episode of Who Are You? Today we're joined by a special guest. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yep. So, hello, my name is Raymond and I'm doing a Bachelor of Civil Engineering.
Hi, my name is Yenny. I'm doing a Bachelor of Design and Architecture, Honours and Masters.
Hi, my name is Tine and I'm doing a Bachelor's in Economics and Law.
Hi, my name is Roald and I'm doing Bachelor of Building Civil Engineering.
Hi, my name is Stephen and I'm doing Civil Engineering also.
The exam period is rolling around for most university students. So basically in this podcast we'll be talking about exam period, procrastination, ways we cope with stress and mental health, and study strategies. First we're going to be talking about exam period and just diving into tips and also our experiences. So we want to share our stories about procrastination.
Yeah, okay. I noticed last semester I did procrastinate a lot. To be fair, I think one of my assignments got extended into like the STUVAC period. So instead of studying for exams, I was just doing that assignment, which I should have like handed in last week. But because of a simple extension, I got to hand it in at the end of STUVAC. And yeah, I don't think I did any, not a lot of studying for exams, I said. But how did that go? Well, look, for what it's worth, I'd say I'm happy about it. But yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah.
I think we're all pretty familiar with procrastination, especially I know that some people are very on top of it, and in architecture it's actually the thing that a lot of people have told me is that as you progress in the degree, one of the most important things that you learn is the importance of time management. I will say that compared to last year, I'm procrastinating less, but the workload has also doubled. So I think procrastination mostly comes when because architecture is such a creative degree, sometimes you get sick of looking at your 3D model or doing things like that. And so procrastination comes from like a creative block and not knowing how to progress forward. And sometimes when the exams or the assignments are due quite far away, and when you don't know how to progress your assignment, that's when the procrastination comes in. Yeah, so I have much experience in that.
Yeah, so I think my degree is pretty dense in like every sense of the word. So I would say like procrastination is like kind of a ride or die situation. But despite like doing this degree, I do still procrastinate since I feel like it's kind of built into most of us to procrastinate. And the tactic really is to learn how to avoid procrastinating. And for me, I think to deal with such heavy content load, it actually depends on the people, right? Some people might like it more because the heavy content actually helps you procrastinate less and helps force you get into the mindset of being like, if I do this, my life is on the line, so I need to do this less. Yeah, quite well versed.
So I'm a pretty big procrastinator. I like it a lot. But that said, I try to procrastinate smartly, in procrastinating in things that I actually want to do. So instead of if I don't feel like studying, I just play a video game or something. But at the same time, I try to break down my tasks progressively throughout the semester, so when it's due, I can just grind through it, having already done with it.
So procrastination's probably pretty big for me too. As a civil engineering student, I just have assignments all the time, so it's not necessarily procrastinating, but more so prioritizing the stuff I want to do and not so much the stuff I don't want to do. My phone's actually pretty bad. I kind of get distracted on my phone a lot, and I always think of things like, "Oh, I wonder what the score is," and then I have to quickly check it, and then I kind of lose track of like the next 5-10 minutes. So I kind of have to get my phone and chuck it out of my room or something and get rid of it. But yeah.
Like for me, I actually have an exams during exam period and I have assignments. So I feel like that actually makes me procrastinate more because I have like a longer length to do the assignments. And then it's like exam period, I'm just like procrastinating because it's also due during the exam period as well. So that's probably how I procrastinate. And I feel like for me, when it's like longer, you procrastinate more because you have that illusion that it's going to take, you have this illusion that you have a lot of time. But in reality, you actually don't have a lot of time. So we're going to be talking about ways how we manage procrastination or how we continue to manage it. So for me, I feel like I try and use apps sometimes, and I sometimes try and do stuff like on paper rather than online, like some notes and stuff like in tutorials and lectures. Because sometimes it's not procrastination, but when I'm watching my lectures or doing tutorials, I feel like I'm like procrastinating. I'm not focusing on the content, so I try and like use like physical, like write the physical notes down.
Yeah, in terms of that topic, I'd say I need someone to help me, like to hold me accountable for that, for me to like effectively study sometimes. I remember I had like this box, and like I'd put my phone in the box, and like there'd be like a time block on it, right? So then during that time, I could effectively study. The best way was I had people like my sister, my brother, they actually like would take away my phone, and like they wouldn't give it to me for like a whole week. And so yeah, during that time, yeah, I felt like I was definitely more productive. So yeah, just having that person like to hold me accountable really helped. And I'm very grateful to my brother and sister for putting up with me that 1 week that I didn't have my phone. Yeah.
I guess when I procrastinate, I think what I do is I try to substitute it with something else. So for example, if I'm sick of looking at my 3D model, I'll like draw on like actual paper. Because sometimes when you have like a digital model, it's a bit refreshing to like switch it up and go back to like analog application. But I think another thing I do is I definitely leave my phone outside of my room, face down, and I silence it. Because I think what happens is like, I'm sure that you guys are all familiar sometimes, like you open it and you're looking for something specifically. Like I've had my phone and looked for like model photos, and then I ended up just going on like Instagram because someone's like messaged me and I replied, and then I got into like the whole like loop of, you just get sucked in. Just get sucked in. So also sometimes if I procrastinate, it's because I don't want to do work, which is why everyone procrastinates, basically. But sometimes when I do that, what I do is I try to get some fresh air. Like I walk, I like sit on the balcony and just like be present for a bit. But yeah, sometimes it's just hard to like stop yourself from procrastinating because you just don't want to do the work.
Yeah, so for me, I would say like a big thing is how I actually take down the notes. Because weirdly enough, if I don't enjoy the way the information is relayed to me, like the less I want to do the work. So the way that I do it is that I usually, since it's very content dense, I actually rely more on the slides and reading from the books from the lecturers that we actually have that is provided to us, rather than hearing it from the professors. Because sometimes like they just speak too slowly when like you want them to speak faster, and then other times like they just like speak way too fast over important information, and it just gets me so dead inside. So yeah, I mostly like what I do is I take all of the notes, all of the lectures that they already written, and then I paste it on my own doc. And then after that, I actually write down my own notes and annotations, and maybe like to some lo-fi music. Yeah, so that like really does help me calm my mind down. I think for me, like keeping myself accountable, it's important for me to study independently because I'm a very distractible person. So I prefer to like keep in my own headspace if I do actually have to spend a lot of time like indulging my head into a certain content. Yeah, and something like that. And with my phone, definitely like as you guys already said, like the phone is terrible for your procrastination. So what I do is I either just put my phone somewhere else or I turn off my notifications on like Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. Yeah, to feel less, stressed out about the things that I need to follow.
Yeah, so like these guys, I also suffer from the phone dilemma. That said, I don't know about you, but I get like 0 notifications on my phone, so I'm very popular. That said, like play like this mini games where if I get a notification, I like stop studying for a bit and check, and then study again. So pretty much I just be studying until I get a notification. Or when I feel burnt out, I just like stop studying and then just like sleep for a bit, and then the cycle continues. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I touched on this beforehand, but yeah, phone's a big killer. Yeah, so I do actually I actually have a bookshop kind of thing where I stick all my textbooks up on my desk, so just chuck it up there somewhere, don't know where it is. Too short to reach it as well, so I'm not getting it anytime soon unless I climb on the desk. But yeah.
During exam period, I feel like we all feel stressed, and I feel like it can be overwhelming because a lot of assignments happen in a lot of exams. So we're going to be talking about ways that we overcome stress and how we deal with it. So for me personally, I have like many strategies. I like to do meditation and box breathing. I feel like it helps me calm down. I did it especially like group assignments. I have a lot this semester. I have like I think 2 this semester, and one of them was like a group assignment, and it was like a speech thing. You had to create like a health promotion of the pitch it to the class, and it could be quite like overwhelming because it's like I'm first year, so like doing this it can be quite overwhelming, especially it's like a first assignment. So I guess like for me, box breathing and like meditation, and also like planning out your week. Because sometimes I have this like thing where I want to take up more things than I already have. Like I have so much going on, but I want to keep on taking more like extracurricular wise. So I feel like to cope with that stress, I plan out my week using Google Calendar. Sometimes like using a notebook. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of coping strategies, yeah, so try to be more planned as well. In the sense that that when I do study, I try to effectively study. So I'm not sure if you guys have heard, but there's something called like a Pomodoro technique. Yeah, so I've been trying that recently. So I think it's study every 30 minutes and then 5-minute break. Yeah, so you do that for like 3 or 4 intervals, and then you take a long break, and then you repeat the process again. So I think I did that for one of my assignments, and yeah, very effective. I must say, very effective. But besides that, yeah, because there's obviously a lot going on in our lives, at this stage in our lives. So you're just trying to do something else to not burn yourself out, whether it's, for me, like going to the gym or just reading a book, going for a walk. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm still working on it. Still working on it. Because I feel like sometimes when, like sometimes things build up and everything is, like you have so much due and it's really overwhelming and you're like, how can I finish this in time, right? I think one of the main things that I do is, I think, first of all, I'm a very messy person. And architecture also makes me messier because I have trace paper everywhere and model bits and pieces and glue. I think one of the best things that you can do if you're like stressed is you just focus some energy on cleaning up your space. Because I feel like if you have a clean workspace, it really helps with like clearing your mind. I feel less stressed if I don't have stuff everywhere. Another thing is, I just write down every single thing I have to do, which could be a bit stressful for some, but I write down every single thing I have to do, and then I look in terms of priority, what's due when, and then I try to make a to-do list and see what I can allocate to what day so I can get it done in time. Of course, like, sometimes I'd say it's important to not put too much, to think that you're much more efficient than you actually are. Because sometimes if you put too much in one day, you sort of have to like realize how much you can actually like feasibly accomplish in one day. If you put too much in one day and then you can't finish like half of it, then it's just gonna add to your stress because you're like, I didn't finish this. I'm not on my schedule. So I think scheduling is really important. Clearing your desk.
Yeah, so I usually get stressed if I feel like I didn't get enough things done. And like for every day, I would say that scheduling itself is very important. Without it, like I would literally not be able to like ideate what I can do like long term with like the amount of stuff that I would have to do, like go through per day. Another thing is like I find that the reason why I can get easily distracted is because of like other senses. So for example, my like certain noises or certain like it's strange because at night I actually feel way less stressed because there's less like outside noise or background noise. And it's mostly just ambience at night, so you can really like see the difference between how calming it is compared to like the afternoon or something. So what I do is I actually use earplugs to like block out that specific sense, and it has actually helped me a lot. Yeah, so that helps me feel more calm.
Wait, like earplugs with music or just like earplugs?
No, just straight earplugs.
It's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, so in terms of managing stress, I like to listen to music. Not just music, but like orchestral music, where it's like really motivating and that. So I just try to push out the things that I need to do. I don't really necessarily plan. I used to use Pomodoro, but I felt like I was just like kind of limited to like a time limit and then another time limit and then another one. So then I feel like I couldn't complete most of the stuff I needed to do during that time. So I just pushed through that while listening to the music. And then trying to look at the outcome, because for stress, it's the feeling of well, I want this mark, and if I don't get this mark, then I don't know. But I've been doing engineering for like a year now, so I'm pretty much used to like getting unsatisfying marks and sometimes satisfying marks. So by now I'm just like, okay, it is what it is.
What music do you listen to? What are the orchestral pieces?
So I listen to Hans Zimmer,
Let's go.
some anime soundtracks,
Let's go.
Pokemon, and yeah, sometimes a Superman beat.
I love that.
Okay, so stress, crossover area. Okay, that's the last engineering part joke. This might sound a bit, I forgot what the word is. But for me, stress is a mindset. Okay, so if you feel stressed, you are stressed. But if you don't feel stressed, you're not stressed. Like for me, I just choose not to be stressed. That's why I'm never stressed. But I think for that to happen, you kind of need to have like quite a good self-awareness, and I know what I'm capable of, know what I'm not capable of. I can schedule things to and know how long it takes me to do certain tasks and give myself the appropriate time. But if there's a lot of things happening and there's a lot going on, it's more just not panicking, because when you feel stressed, your brain kind of shuts down, and then it's hard to access the stuff that you need. Then kind of makes you more stressed because you can't access it. Then it kind of makes it worse, and you keep spiraling out of control.
Similar to stress, if we talk about mental health, I feel like during exam period it can be hard to prioritize your mental health as you're prioritizing exams and assignments. So I'm gonna start off with how I cope with mental health. For me, I feel like it's important to have like a balance, so like social life, also study, and having that also time for yourself. And for me, I like to like meditate in the morning. I do that like before I sleep, and also before when I wake up and before I sleep. I feel it's like a nice like way to start the day. And I also like run. It clears my mind out, and it's a good way to get your body moving. And I feel like with social life, I try to like have at least one hangout with my friend a week. It also helps like AIESEC. I feel like we have this LCM, so you can get to talk to people, and there's also places where you can study, like the action space. So it's a nice place.
How was my mental health during? Not gonna lie, it wasn't too great. Like I used to have this thought that like I didn't think mental health was that big of a deal. Really, like I feel like, oh, you're depressed. That's interesting. Okay, because I never felt that pressure. I mean, until maybe like year 11, year 12, doing like exams like HSC stuff like that. I didn't do HSC, but because I'm from Canberra. But anyways, point is, I realized that once like I remember there was this like moment when like the stress and like everything just hit me like a hood came over my head, and then it got so bad like I wasn't eating like at one point. But anyways, the point is, right, I feel like I needed to actually be able to think I need to do in order to make myself feel like comfortable again. How to get back into like a state where I could. It's hard to describe, but yeah. I remember going out with walks, especially with friends, who I'm very grateful for. They were there to support me all the way. Like I said, I've always been held accountable by people. So yeah, just having those people holding me accountable, being there for me socially, so I feel like I could perform my best. And obviously I do have all these other friends that do civil engineering as well. They're always there to help me, which I'm very grateful for. So yeah, to sum it up, just know your capabilities. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And yeah, just take it slowly. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
So actually, I had a very recent run-in with not being in the best place mentally. It was actually last week. I hit a roadblock in like design or architecture. And sometimes when you hit a roadblock and there's no way out, like, and you can't think of anything, you're frustrated with your design, it can be pretty difficult. And so on top of that, I actually got sick, which was not fun, as I was tired and sleep deprived and I was stressed about it. So it was just a bad time in general. And so I think it was interesting because I was very detached that week. I think I was just feeling really low. And it was just like, I think half of it is, well, I was very grateful to my because sometimes, like, I think my mom especially, she reminded me, she was like, you can't be your best 100% of the time, because everyone is human and everyone is going to have bad days or bad weeks or bad months. And sometimes what you have to do is you have to sort of come to terms with the fact that you really can't give your best for 120% all the time. I had a run-in actually last year when I was doing a project 12 hours a day, two weeks straight. It was crazy. I was very motivated, but I burnt myself out pretty bad after those 2 weeks, and it was really hard to get myself back in the groove. I think with mental health and the way that you deal with it, half of it is sometimes you just have to wait for time to pass. Of course, there are ways that you bring yourself out of it, and there are ways that sometimes you just wake up the next day and you're like, I'm fine now, like, it's okay. But I think also after that, it's also, once you pass the period, it's also sort of being nice to yourself, sort of being understanding to yourself, and realizing that sometimes, you can't be perfect all the time, and realizing that it's normal and it's okay that you felt really bad the last week and you didn't do as much work as you wanted to. Because I feel like when you beat yourself up over things you haven't done, it sort of perpetuates it, and it makes you feel even worse, which puts you down a worse spiral. So I think it's also just, I've said this so many times, but being understanding to yourself and just being like, okay, I had a really bad week, and maybe my professors think that I've slacked off last week because I don't have as much to show, but I think it's sort of like being like, okay, last week was bad, I was not in a good place, I didn't do as much as I wanted to. That's okay, and it's okay that I haven't done as much as I wanted to. What's most important is like how you move forward, and what's most important is being like, okay, I'm okay now, I'm better now. Taking like a proactive approach, how can I make up for it? How can I just take it like one step at a time? Sometimes the most important thing is just taking it one step at a time and doing whatever you can, because the past is the past and you can't change it. So just take one step. Also, something really important, get sleep. I know everyone is like, oh my gosh, it's exam period, I can't afford to sleep. But I found that when I had less sleep, I was worse mentally. And when I had more sleep, I was less like depressed and stressed. And sometimes half of you feeling low is just because you're extremely sleep deprived and your body is telling you that you need to sleep, bro. You actually need to sleep. So sometimes if you feel like you're stuck, you can't do anything, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, take a walk and take a break and just like sleep. And sometimes the next day you wake up and you'll be like, actually, I really needed that sleep. And sleep actually fixes a lot. I take it from an architecture student who doesn't sleep. So sleep is really important. It helps you feel better, and it certainly helps me feel better. I notice like a real correlation between the amount of hours I sleep and how I am mentally.
Yes, so for me, I would say my lowest point in mental health was during high school. So the classic HSC like year, and that time I would say one of the biggest things with my anxiety, like at that time, was that I tended to catastrophize things, and I think that's like pretty common with people who are stressed and anxious. Like at the moment, it was a very like high level thing, like that costs a lot of energy. So they tend to think that this is the end, or maybe this is like they can either do the best in this thing or they fail. And I'm definitely someone who hates failing, so I would say that is the biggest thing that got me. the idea that I might actually lose because of the stress. And as a result, it creates a cyclical thing where I become more stressed. And one way that actually helped me through everything was, I would say, my parents and also my friends. I definitely think that when you're stressed, hanging out with your friends or even just taking the time to socialize a bit actually takes so much weight off of what you feel like at the time. Because you realize that there's like something else outside of just your bubble of stress. And there's more that you can do to, like, there's more that other people can also do to help you. And I think my parents really did like take into account that as well. I was really thankful that they're not dismissive of my stress and that they're not dismissive of what I'm going through. So they actually try their best to help me with that, like accommodate that as well. And remind me that, yeah, you need to do something other than study and worry about it. And then so I started like doing a better routine, not sacrificing my sleep. Because honestly, like my worst points of mental health happened when I was like pulling all-nighters and stuff like that. And I think, yeah, just in general, like sleep is a lot more important than you might realize. And what else? I'd say also just catching yourself if you realize that you're exacerbating things or you're making like too much out of the idea of losing. You might think like, oh, this is literally where everything is gonna end, like it's gonna be terrible and I'm not gonna be able to get through this. But I think that mindset itself does actually create a worse environment for you, and it's much like, yeah, like getting rid of that is actually a lot nicer. And meditation helps too.
Yeah, so in terms of mental health, I try to keep a balance, like previously mentioned. So there's a balance between studying too much and then taking a break. So whenever I feel burnt out, which I still do, I just either like play guitar, which calms me down a bit, or literally just sleep and then study again. And also having a network, like a support network that I can rely on, like my mates and whatnot. And I mean, I'm just trying to like balance more these days compared to high school and first year. So yeah.
Yeah, so I was quite similar to Raymond. Like when people have had depression or had mental health issues, like I didn't really know what that meant. Until I think halfway through this semester actually, I went through a bit of a period where I did quite a bit of reflecting about who I am, what I'm like, and what I want to do in life. And I kind of got stuck because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I don't know where I was heading and why I was doing the stuff that I was doing. And that kind of made me depressed because I was kind of lost. I'm not sure if you guys realised that I was depressed, because I think one of the good things is having that support network and the friends that I had and everyone around me kind of made me change my emotions to be happy. So probably didn't even realise that I was depressed. To touch on Yenny's point as well, so having bad weeks and bad times as well, especially for me, it was during high school. It was like winter. There was like 3 weeks of like 7 or 9 assignments, most of which were hand-ins. I think both of the science ones were massive. Had to be like posters, so you have to make it all creative, and like civil engineering students have no creativity whatsoever. So like it was a bit of a tough task, but like it was just late nights, studying late till like 2 or 3 in the morning, then waking up at like 5 or 6 to keep working on it till like trying to rush in to submit it by 9 o'clock, and then kind of like not getting enough sleep. Had to keep working, pushing yourself so you spend everything. I think I didn't submit 1 task on time, and that was advanced mathematics, which didn't really matter because I was doing extension 2, but like, yeah, so I think trying to prioritize yourself also helps. I think the biggest thing is having and using your support network around you. You're never going to be 100%, but it's managing the downs so they're not as big of a down, and trying to keep high as much as you can, which isn't going to happen all the time. But the more so you're up high, the better. So yeah.
I feel like something that helps me, and I feel like a lot of other people, would be like extracurricular activities. Not just like studying all the time and just finding out your interests, as we mentioned. So for me, like I like volunteering or doing these other things, and I feel like it just helps with stress. Sometimes it does make it more stressful because it makes me have less time, but other times it does make me like, overcome stress. So we're going to be talking about our tips for the viewers or people listening. So I'll start off. I feel like personally, it can be an issue of like, oh, where to study. It can be hard to study at home because it might be like noisy and like, your siblings might be annoying. But I feel like for me, I like to study alone and completely like silent. So I like going to like the quiet library, and I feel like I like to like not just stay at one spot. So sometimes I'll go to the official library in the quiet section, and sometimes I'll go to like another library, like sci-tech library. I feel like having that balance and also having that kind of like exercise in between. So you go from this library to that library, so you have kind of like study break, I guess. And I feel like tips would be, exams can be difficult, and especially like assignment period, exam period now, but you can get through it, and after you get through it, you have like 2 months to do whatever you want. So just push through it.
Yeah. So some cheeky tips. Shall I give tips? All right. Look, I'm still in the process of figuring it out myself. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I think one important, well, for me personally, I feel like cramming doesn't work for me. Yeah, a bit of a toxic trait of mine. I will cram for an exam, and then I'll act so surprised, like, oh, I literally just studied that topic like 5 minutes ago for the exam. How come I got it wrong? Because I feel like your brain, like, it just doesn't process it. You're meant to like repeatedly like learn it, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I found out recently. So definitely going through like lecture material, like Tine said, at your own pace. So to a point where you can understand it. I think that's the best thing. And I'll say that the semester is, this might be corny, but the semester is a marathon, not a sprint. So yeah, there you go. That's what I have so far. But if I have more tips, I'll be sure to let you know.
When it comes to study tips, so kind of like before, it's the earplugs method to like completely get rid of one of your senses. Like I definitely do think that helps. But beyond that, yeah, kind of building on what Raymond said as well about cramming. Cramming is literally, it's toxic. It's terrible. Like I hate doing it, but I do it anyways. And this is like such a weird thing that I do, but sometimes I realize that I have a natural tendency to go against what I'm told to do. So if I see the little voice in my head to be like, oh yeah, like you can do this later, I'm sure you can cram and like study later, I've learned to like go against that voice, to be like, you're so wrong, you're incorrect. Yeah, so I guess that's just me like trying to use my stubborn nature against myself, which is which is also, I guess another tip could be like listening to music as well, but mostly like ambient sounds, just anything without lyrics, because those get you thinking, and it gets you like drift off to different places. Yeah.
So for me personally, I like to break down the tasks that I need to do throughout the semester, so I complete it like progressively, and so I have moments in the semester where I can just not do any work and just relax. So when exam period comes, I can cram, kind of, like not like a last minute cram, but kind of regurgitate what I learned throughout the semester, so that because your brain kind of has to like learn it a bit, and then it's like repetitive and thingy and whatnot. That said, I used to like studying like solo, like in my room. I still do, but I'm more open to studying with friends nowadays, or even like joining tutorials where I'm not assigned to, which helps a bit. So then I can get it out of the way, and
So I think studying is quite personal, to be honest. Some methods work for you, some methods won't. It's kind of optimizing the methods that gets you the best outcomes, to be honest. So for me, that is, I like to study at uni. Study at home just does not work whatsoever. I can't do it. I think it's partially the distractions at home, getting interrupted all the time. So I like to study at uni. In terms of preparing for exams, I'm kind of terrible at studying, partially because I either know it or don't know I don't know it. It's kind of that aspect to it. But if I do study, I don't study on the day of my exam. On the day of my exam, I just don't touch the subject. I feel like trying to push it in and reinforce lots of different things just won't sit in my head, and it'll just kind of cram in there and just hinder my output. So essentially just find the strategies that work for you. Doesn't matter how long it takes. If you try something, if it doesn't work, move on, try something else. Just find something that works for you.
It's coming towards the end of this podcast. I want to thank you all for listening. In AIESEC, we do this tradition where we close the space using a clap. So we're closing the space in 3, 2, 1.